It says they fired 32-year-old Dean Crouch from their store in Tallahassee, even though he was able to stop a robbery suspect.
Netflix has received the most nominations of any TV outlet for the 70th Emmy Awards, breaking a streak held for 2 decades by HBO.
Good morning. It is 6:09 here on this Friday, the 13th, July 13th, 2018. You're listening to Mike and Bonnie in the morning. Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning, Treasure Coast. Good morning to you, Mike, and welcome back this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I had some car troubles yesterday, so luckily we were able to send you up to Fort Pierce. Thanks to you and G and Paul for covering for me. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever had happen in a car. Everything was running perfectly, and I was jumping in my car to go to do trivia Wednesday night down at the Tipsy Parrot, and turn the key, and just everything started flickering and flashing, and just shut off. And it was kind of like when you watch a movie like Apollo 13 or any of those other, space movies where people are in space and then they have some type of catastrophic power failure, and all the buttons start flashing and the lights start going off and you can hear the controls moving around. That's what was happening in my car.
Well, your car really does the flashes for you. I remember when my battery went out, it just kind of like wants to start. It goes woo, 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 and then you get a little click, 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 click.
Yeah, that's every other car I've been in where the batteries died. That's all that happened. So I thought there was probably a short somewhere in the system, and tried to jump it, figured if I can jump it, I can take it and at least get the battery tested and see what's going on with that. But couldn't even get it jumped with my wife's car. So,
that's odd.
Yeah, it was very strange. So my father-in-law came over yesterday morning and we finally got it up and running. And yeah, I got lucky. The fact that it was just a battery when it was all said and done.
You're always like a sigh of relief when it's the battery and not the alternator or something.
Yeah, but I found a fatal flaw with the design of my car. I've got a Ford Fiesta, and the one thing I've hated about that car the most since I've purchased it is the way that everything locks and unlocks. It's all controlled off of a single button that is on the dashboard. And when I was looking at the car with the guy at the dealer, he's showing me all this stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is a great car. Can I see the trunk?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he couldn't figure out how to open the trunk because there's no key. There's no keyhole on the back for you to unlock it and physically open it there. There's no lever inside the car that, is labeled trunk that you pull and it pops the trunk. You have to press the one button
on the dashboard
to unlock all the doors, and then the trunk is unlocked and you can just open it like a normal door in the back. And so with the battery working, being all messed up and not even powerful enough to lock or unlock the doors, I had no way to open the trunk, and all of my trivia equipment was in the trunk.
Wow. Oh, what a nightmare.
So I had, yeah, exactly. So I'm already, I'm like, oh man, all right, this is a terrible situation with my car not working. What's going on here? And then I realized I'm going to have to take my wife's car, but I can't get the equipment out of mine. So I had to pull the seats down so I could get access to the trunk and pull all the small stuff through the back seat. But I have a giant speaker that I use for these things, and that was too big to get pulled through the back seat. So I had to push that to the side, and I had to like army crawl my way through the back seat into the trunk so I could pull the lever, the emergency latch that's inside the trunks, so you can't get kidnapped. I had to army crawl my way back there, pop that trunk open, and then I could finally squeeze my way back out and take the speaker out. And as I putting this speaker into my wife's car, she closes my trunk. I was like, "Did you get the jumper cables out of there?" She's like, "No." I'm like,
Oh no! So you
I had to army crawl my way back through there again,
again.
just so I could get the jumper cables out.
I'm glad you didn't get stuck in there, Mike. It's good knowing that when you did get through, though, that lever for the kidnapping lever did actually work in there.
It better work.
I mean, you hate to have to do that to find out if it does work, but wow, that sounds like an incredible night for you. You must have just been pulling out your hair.
I was exhausted.
Did you make it to your gig then finally?
I made it to, we made it to trivia. Everything went fine with that.
Wow.
But yeah, that was, and then I got home and then it's like, okay, time to start working on this thing at, 9:30, whatever it was. So I think I was up till after midnight trying to get that car started and couldn't do it, which is why I called Greg and Carol and was like, I can't come in tomorrow. Please help me out here. And thankfully they were able to get you guys all put in position. So once again, thank you very much for covering for that.
Oh, thank you for letting me know. And sorry I didn't get the phone call. I mean, I didn't answer my phone late into the night.
Yeah.
I was sleeping, and then
thank
goodness
didn't get the message. Didn't get the phone message. Didn't get the text message. I woke up at 5 a.m. to call you.
It was like the exact time when if I have to go to work in Fort Pierce, though, at about 10 after 5 is when I would start making my way to Fort Pierce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had to wake up, call you, and then the cat starts yelling at me, so I had to feed the cat. So I was basically up at 5 o'clock yesterday anyway.
Oh, you have a cat like that too, like a loud, obnoxious cat.
As soon as she hears us moving, she's screaming for breakfast.
Is she like right under your feet too?
No, because
where you almost kick her?
Well, we don't let her into the bedroom at night because she puked on the bed one night, and so she's no longer allowed in there. But as soon as I leave the bedroom, she's all over the feet. She's yelling, she's screaming, she's rubbing all over everything. Yeah, it's annoying.
Mm-hmm. I have one like that too. He's very outspoken. He lets you know at least 10 times a day when he's ready to eat, and follows me around everywhere.
Yeah. So let's see. We got a lot of stuff going on. Yesterday, the big national story. I don't know. Did you see any of that? I don't know what the right word for it is. Hearing or conference or what was going down at Capitol Hill where Peter Strzok was testifying in front of Congress.
Yeah, I was listening to some of that with Tom Sullivan on the way to work last night.
Yeah, and then it's just, it's political theater at its finest. If you are a fan of political theater, all these politicians get 5 minutes and they basically get to make videos. It's basically they just want to make sure that some type of good soundbite gets sent back to their news media back home locally, especially here in an election year. But there was some fun parliamentary stuff going on at the beginning. Did you see any of that stuff?
I didn't see the beginning of it. No.
The chairman's trying to ring stuff in, and you got the Democrats going, point of order, and the chairman's going, I don't recognize your point of order. Oh, and then the Democrats are going, you have to recognize our point of order. And then the chairman would start yelling at each other, and it was very parliamentary. Very parliamentarian stuff.
I could picture the old men in the white or in the tight ties getting all red in the face.
Oh, and
yelling at each other.
They were yelling at each other and hooting and hollering, and it's all theater. That's all it is. But if you know that it's theater, it was still kind of entertaining. You got the chairman or the Democrats going, point of order. I don't recognize your point of order. You don't know what my point of order is. Mm-hmm. I would like to appeal the chairman's decision to not recognize my point of order. You can't do that. I absolutely can do that. Blah, blah, blah. The chairman's wrong. And then the chairman, he can't sit there and defend himself and just say, no, I'm right, because it has to go into the public record. So the chairman has to start speaking in the third person, going, the chairman's not wrong, the chairman's right.
Oh boy.
It was like a fifth grade argument up there yesterday.
Like if you turn down the volume of it, you could find a soundtrack, find a cool upbeat song, and have a video to it without their voices being heard.
There was a solid 5 minutes of a video I was watching where Strzok didn't have to say anything. And he was just sitting there watching all of this back and forth. And then the chairman's Goodlatte is doing his ruling, and then he's getting challenged by the Democrats. And then there's people standing behind him, presumably whispering rules and functions into his ear, and they would lean in and they'd whisper to the chairman, and then he would spit out something else. And then the Democrats would throw something back at him, and they've got people over their shoulder leaning in. And it was wild. It was
Mhm.
wild stuff. And then finally they asked Strzok a question, and it was almost like you could see him have to go like, oh, it's my turn to speak now. Oh, okay. And he had to like replug back into the conversation.
Wow. How many hours did this go on? Did this roll on for?
Probably a long time. I
Very
don't know
long.
exactly, because I only saw the clips of the wild stuff, which happened pretty early on. And then I obviously clips from some of the more rambunctious encounters throughout the thing. But there were a lot of congressmen there, and they each got 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you do the math, that's going to add up quickly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
I
bet you he
guess so.
was up there for several hours testifying. But that was definitely the top story yesterday. Of course, here locally, we found out, not really much of a surprise, but we did find out that discharges will resume from Lake Okeechobee starting this weekend. And actually starting this morning, they say they're going to do pulse discharges to simulate rainfall events. I've never heard of the pulse discharges being used to simulate rainfall events. I know that they used pulse discharges in 2016, and it helped out a lot because you would release a lot of the fresh water early in the week, and then it would reduce as the weekend got close, and that allowed more of the salinity to get pulled into the river and the estuary, and that helped.
That's a great idea. Then thumbs up to the river kids here too, that are going political with the cause and want to clean up our waters. The river kids.
So that's all going on today. We'll have more on that in our local Treasure Coast news. I guess there was pandemonium, even more chaotic than Capitol Hill yesterday. There was that Build-A-Bear promotion that was going on.
People went wild over that.
I don't know how Build-A-Bear didn't see that coming, where it's pay your age sale. I had a ton of parents just posting like time to go. They just had newborns. Time to go get a bunch of Build-A-Bears. Those things are expensive and they're valuable and they're a big deal.
Pandemonium. Just everywhere they had that sale.
Yeah, everywhere. Just long lines. There were some parents saying they were waiting for 7 to 8 hours with their kids to get a sale, and they were done.
And I had no idea that like Build-A-Bears were so much in demand and they were so expensive.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like pricey. That the American Doll girl. I think the kids that get the American dolls, Topanga's mom paid $100 for her to get a doll not too long ago. And those things get pricey. You can imagine how much the bears are.
Yeah, it can get extremely pricey. And so didn't they have to shut down the promotion? I think they shut down the promotion, and it was just not one of those promotions that sounds like a good idea on paper. And then in practice, oh boy.
It's really big, I guess, in the UK, but I haven't heard much about Build-A-Bear over here, but I guess we do have some stores in that for it. I
don't think there's any here locally, but across the nation, there are several Build-A-Bear stores. I know there's at least one in the Florida Mall, I believe, up in Orlando.
Okay.
And they're all over the big cities and extremely popular. And now maybe just a little bit less popular.
Well, actually,
with some of those parents probably still mad about yesterday.
I want one. So if I went there to the Orlando, the Florida Mall, I would give my age, and I'd probably be close to the actual price of the bear with my age.
6:22 is the time this morning. We've got Treasure Coast news coming up next. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says it plans to resume releasing water from Lake Okeechobee today. The water level in the lake is approaching 14.5 feet. That's up over 1.5 feet from its 2018 low in May. The Corps said they will implement pulse releases that will attempt to simulate rainfall events in an effort to reduce some of the environmental impacts. Discharges from Lake Okeechobee combined with rain, pollutants, and heat have caused the toxic algae blooms. Now, critics of the discharges say it's not only hurting the ecosystem, but it's hurting the economy as well. The Corps said they have to release the water because holding too much in Lake Okeechobee threatens the Herbert Hoover Dike, putting the lives of everyone who lives around the lake at risk. Now, health officials are urging everyone to avoid blue-green algae, but what if you have to work on the water? WPTV's Alex Hagan spoke to those that are on or in the water every day for a living.
That water that you mentioned in that Lake O water is going to come through the Port Myakka Lock and then eventually come through the St. Lucie Lock here, and it's going to flow down here in the C-44 Canal and eventually into the St. Lucie estuary, of course, raising even more health concerns. But as you said, business owners, they have to stay open to maintain a living. At Outboards Only,
these are all storage boats. These here,
it's business as usual, fixing boats, cleaning them up near or on the water.
we're in the water every day.
Co-owner Phil Norman is no stranger to the water crisis. This site was considered ground zero in 2016. In 2018,
I've actually been thinking about it quite a bit lately.
thinking a lot about those potential health issues after all those reports at Martin Health System of people coming in with symptoms believed to be related to algae, rashes, respiratory issues. Now Phil is worried for his employees.
What it's going to do to us now, what's going to happen in the future, don't know. Yeah, it's concerning. At the same time, we still got to get out here and make a living. This is what we do to earn money to pay our bills.
Just down the street at the other 2016 ground zero business,
might be heading our way is concerning.
different place, same story. But if it gets too bad,
In the event that it gets really, really bad, but once again, we'd have to shut down the business.
sometimes it's just not worth it.
I do full yacht management.
John McConnell knows all too well.
If it's like 2 years ago, I can't work on the boat here.
Now, when I spoke with Dr. Michael Romano with Martin Health System earlier this week, he advised folks not to be in the water, around the water, but he mentioned those who have to be around the water for their business, that they wear wetsuits, also, of course, a mask if they're near algae. Alex Hagan for The Now, South Florida.
Deputies were back at work Thursday trying to find the rest of a person's remains at a construction site in St. Lucie County. On Wednesday, a construction worker clearing a lot to build a personal storage facility on Kitterman Road, just west of US 1, found a skull.
Got a lot of soft spots out here with different debris and looked like a coconut sitting there, and I moved it out of the way, and it wasn't a coconut.
Construction Superintendent Hank Richards said after he found the skull, he immediately called the police. Deputies don't know the age, gender, or the manner of death. Chief Deputy Gary Wilson said the remains must have been there for at least 2 to 3 years.
What happens a lot of times in a case like this is you have animals that get involved and they start moving things around. If we're not finding all the pieces, we're going to continue to look for the pieces.
Meanwhile, deputies said homeless people did frequent the area where the remains were found. Deputies also checked to see if anyone was reported missing in the area in recent years, but no one came up in their search. The League of Women Voters filed a lawsuit to boot Prop 8 from the Florida ballot. League attorney Ron Meyer says the official summary for the charter school amendment is misleading, and the entire proposition is designed to deceive voters.
They packaged some bad stuff with things that sparkle. In other words, people seem to like term limits, so that's in there. They seem to like the requirement of teaching civic literacy, so that's in there.
Meyer says the real purpose of Amendment 8 is to allow political appointees to create charter schools that would not be controlled by or accountable to your local school district. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news this morning. It's 6:27.
We do have an accident up in the Fort Pierce area, and this is on the Turnpike. There's a vehicle crash with injuries and roadblock. It's Turnpike southbound at mile marker 158. The center lane there is blocked. Here in Martin County, we don't have any accidents to report. Call if you see one at 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
Stewart at 76, and WPTV weather is brought to you by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares. Calls you back, shows up, and finishes on time. Call 287-2829. Let's get more on our weekend forecast at WPTV.
If you want to join the show here this morning, give us a call. Our phone number is 772-2209-788-220-WSTU. Lots of stuff going on here on this Friday the 13th. Right now, it's 6:30. Here's FNN News. Taking a look at sports yesterday, the Marlins were off as they prepare for a weekend series in Miami against the Phillies. First game is scheduled for tonight at 7:10. Meanwhile, the Tampa Bay Rays were in Minnesota. Kyle Gibson struck out 9 batters over 8 easy innings for the Twins, who handed Tampa Bay ace Blake Snell his shortest start of the season, and they beat the Rays 5-1. All of that coming after a 2-hour rain delay. Some other MLB scores. Angels thumped the Mariners 11-2. The Dodgers squeaked past the Padres 3-2. And the Nationals edged the Mets 5-4. Wimbledon yesterday, Serena Williams winning again, advancing to yet another Wimbledon final. The women's side of the tournament is scheduled to come to a close Saturday morning at 9 a.m. when Serena Williams will face off against Germany's Angelique Kerber. On the men's side of the tournament, no action yesterday. The semifinals are today. You've got American John Isner going up against Kevin Anderson, and the other semifinal will be Novak Djokovic going up against Rafael Nadal. That's happening at 10 o'clock this morning. World Cup will come to a close this weekend after a thrilling semifinals during the week. The third-place playoff game will feature Belgium versus England. That is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The World Cup final is France versus Croatia. Those teams kick off Sunday morning at 11 a.m. That's a look at sports on WSTU.
President Trump arrived in England today, and he was greeted by hundreds of angry protesters. It didn't help that Trump arrived in England wearing a Croatian soccer jersey.
Stormy Daniels had a brush with the law last night. She was arrested at a strip club in Columbus because she allegedly touched a customer who turned out to be an undercover police officer. Under Ohio state law, an employee who appears nude or semi-nude is prohibited from touching patrons on the premises of a sexually oriented business unless it's a family member. That's the law. And just like that, the state of Ohio shoots past Florida in the race for creepiest state. Twitter today deleted millions of phony accounts, bots and whatnot. As a result of that, Justin Bieber lost about 2 million followers today. He did. President Obama lost 2.3 million. Even I was a victim. I lost 200,000 followers today, including my dad, who turned out he was a Russian bot the whole time.
The battle raged on as Goodlatte refused to let Strzok confer with the FBI counsel.
Counsel for the FBI is sitting here behind me. May I consult with them? You may consult with your own counsel. No, but I may not consult with the FBI's counsel? Only with your own counsel.
Witness can't be directed not to confer with his attorney.
Congressman Andy Cohen is right. This is the first time I've seen Congress as frustrated with Congress as we are.
6:40 is the time here on this Friday, the 13th. Let's take a trip back throughout this day in history with Bonnie.
A sweet, sweet day in history, Mike.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yes, in 1937 on this date, the first Krispy Kreme donut was sold in Salem, North Carolina.
I wish we had some Krispy Kremes around here. You get that fresh donut light on and turn across 4 lanes of traffic to get in there.
Don't they have the Krispy Kremes for sale all the time in like
It's not the
7-Eleven
same.
stores?
It's not the same.
Oh, not
It's
the.
not the same at all.
See, I never.
It's not. It can't be. It just. You're talking about something coming fresh out of the fryer.
Yeah,
You got the fresh icing poured on it, and then it goes right into your mouth.
Never
And that's going to be better than something that's been then taken over to anywhere.
Ain't nothing like the real thing, baby.
Nope.
I just never experienced the real deal. That's unfortunate. But even sweeter, 2 years later than that Krispy Kreme coming out was in 1939 when Frank Sinatra made his first record singing From the Bottom of My Heart and Melancholy Mood with the Harry James Orchestra.
When I got to the machine shop yesterday afternoon to show up to work, they had apparently ordered donuts for the morning.
Yeah.
And it kind of dawned on me, donuts smell like just unadulterated sugar. I mean, that's basically what they are. But I mean, there's almost nothing that smells sweeter than a bunch of donuts piled together.
Yeah, that
It's got a
has
very sweet smell.
a very appealing smell. Just kind of like when you're at the fair and you go up to that cotton candy vendor and they're spinning that fresh cotton candy and you got that sweet smell in the air.
I think the fair is right. I don't know if it's the cotton candy though. I think that might be the funnel cake booth.
That could be.
Because you got the mixture. There's the oil in there too, the oil and the frying. But then just with the funnel cake, anyway, it's just tons of powdered sugar and all this other stuff, and then all the good stuff that goes on with the donuts.
Yeah, and they're getting so fancy with those funnel cakes lately too. St. Lucie County Fair, we were walking out last year and the kids had to have their funnel cakes. And oh my,
Gotta get a funnel cake.
glazed with those big strawberries. They look, oh my gosh, they looked so pretty. They're getting really fancy with them now too.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Clapton's I Shot the Sheriff was released in 1974.
But he did not shoot the deputy.
No, he didn't.
Make it very clear.
41 years ago, in 1977, a blackout that lasted 25 hours hit New York City. And that was
How long?
25 hours.
Oh.
But it was like there wasn't one, there wasn't two, but there were 3 lightning strikes. First at a plant on the Hudson River, some kind of a substation there, and then it hit. Lightning came again and again and hit a couple of nuclear plants.
Didn't they have a power or a blackout that lasted like a week?
They did.
And people were going nuts. People were going
was-
crazy in the city.
That was like, I think in 1965 where
In the
they
60s?
I'm pretty sure. And I think the one in 1977 had even been worse. I was reading with far too many looters
But it was only 25 hours.
Yeah.
It's strange. I thought that had lasted for a couple of days
Mm-hmm.
of black. Maybe there were rolling brownouts and blackouts and things like that, and then just one solid 25-hour chunk of a blackout.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just be totally wrong with what I remember from about this. But I do know that there was a documentary on it on Netflix that
Yeah.
I started to watch, and clearly I didn't get far into it because I fell asleep.
Did you have a blackout? Is that
I
why?
blacked out. Yeah, I
You
blacked out while watching it.
And also, Live Aid came about in 1985. 1.5 billion people either watched or listened to Live Aid, an international rock concert in London, Philadelphia, Moscow, and Sydney.
Do you think a concert like that could do well today?
Yeah, I think it could.
Then how come we don't see him?
I think it would be. I think it should happen. I feel like
There's
it would
a
be
difference
good
between
for
should and could.
morale and getting people together. Could it happen?
I don't
though?
think you could do that today. I think there's too many eclectic types of music. I don't think. I think pop music is shifted so much. I don't know if you could have a Live Aid where you've just got these massive concerts all over the country and people are tuning in and doing all this other stuff for it. I mean, those are events.
It seems like there are just some musicians nowadays that just aren't getting, along with one another. And with all the Twitter and the social media, you see this musician talking smack about that musician and vice versa. That there just doesn't seem to be a lot of as much camaraderie as like back, like say when we saw Live Aid in the 80s, you know, when we saw Diana Ross and Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi and Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson too, and all the celebrities kind of coming together with one focus and mission and that peacefulness about it.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
I just don't. I can't put my finger on it, but I don't think you would be able to have successful versions of those concerts today. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong.
We got to call up Bob Geldof. I think he's still around.
See the organizer?
Yeah. A big organizer from Britain.
Okay.
Ghost, starring Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze, Whoopi Goldberg, was released on the stage in 1990.
Did you like that movie?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, that's one I think you can still watch today and
I bet you
still
could.
get into it.
The clay making scene, the clay pot making scene is one of those scenes where you don't have to see Ghost to know that scene. It is spoofed so many times. It has weaseled its way into our collective pop culture mind.
It still even it does, and that's 100% true. And the subway action too, when Patrick Swayze goes into that subway all the time and he meets the ghost of the guy with the big hair, and he was a really big, scary guy. I think his name had been something like Bernard Getz. And he was the ghost that he had to kind of like fight in the subway. And he would always go in the subway, and that big ghost would say, "Get off of my train. You don't belong here. Get off of my train." He knew Swayze was another ghost, but he had the power to just, whip him through and like whip him right out of there.
Right.
And Swayze had to, that was just like a epic movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie.
Yeah. Tanya Harding's ex-husband, Jeff Gillooly, was sentenced in Portland, Oregon on the state in 1994 to 2 years in prison for his role in the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. And he only served 6 months. And to this day, he, as soon as he got out of prison in 1995, he changed his name to Jeff Stone. And he today is a used car salesman, Mike.
Wow, that's not surprising at all.
But this happening, too, on the very same day in 1994 when OJ was charged with the murder. And he had to give out some hair samples on this very same date.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And 13 years ago in 2005, Bernard Ebbers, the ex-CEO of WorldCom, who orchestrated the biggest corporate fraud in U.S. history, was sentenced to 25 years in prison for his part in $11 billion accounting fraud.
I don't know anything about that story.
At WorldCom, now known as MCI.
What was WorldCom? What did they do? What does MCI do?
MCI, well, he started out, I don't know if this expanded from, he started with a hotel chain, and that's how he started to get in business.
WorldCom sounds like one of those TV production companies where you see, after you're watching David Letterman or whatever, and or any of those TVs, and it was like WorldCom, or the title, the little splash screen from the production company at the very end of the show.
Oh yeah, Worldwide Pants.
Yeah, Worldwide Pants.
That's the one I always see too.
That's David Letterman's.
And Bernard Ebbers, that ex-CEO, he's currently serving that 25-year prison sentence in a federal prison in Fort Worth, Texas. So he's still alive too.
All right.
And our birthdays today, we have Harrison Ford, who's 76.
76. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if he's thinking about the Temple of Doom.
I don't think he is.
No, probably not. And, gosh, I shouldn't even say that because, age is just a number. He could be 76 and be in perfectly good health and have 25 to 34 more years of living.
He could be.
Yeah.
But I don't think he is.
You never know.
He's been in a couple plane crashes. That runs a toll on you.
Yeah, but if he looks up to the likes of one like Clint Eastwood, who's 88 right now, that's a whole lot of living to do yet for him.
Well, Clint Eastwood also looks like he's been rode hard and put up wet.
He didn't age well. I mean, that's one of those guys that...
I don't think he started off all that well. He looked like he was an old guy. He looked like he was a piece of leather left out in the sun for a couple of years.
Oh, no. All the girls wanted him.
I'm not saying that
he
wasn't an attractive man. I'm just saying he always kind of looked a little bit on the old side.
On the older side? Maybe he was just kind of an old soul or something.
Dirty Harry's not an 18-year-old out there running around.
Yeah. But
that's a man.
In the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Again, the sun does not do good things to your skin. he looked like an old piece of beef jerky out there.
Oh, that's
he was
right.
all withered up in the sun.
Who was it? Chico did pull him rough through that desert, that big desert ride he had to go on. Was it Tito or Chico? What was his name? I should remember because
I don't know.
I should remember his name because he was even better than Clint in the movie. He carried that movie.
I'm not saying he's wasn't a good looking man. I'm just saying he's always looked a little bit on the older side.
Mm-hmm. Richard Cheech Moran from Cheech and Chong is 72 today.
Talk about an old looking guy.
I think we lose Chong last year? I thought I heard we lost Tommy Chong, or one of Cheech we still have around. I think Tommy Chong might have passed.
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
I was actually, when you said Cheech, I was thinking of Chong.
Oh, are you?
Because he looked a little bit older. He had the old hair and the grizzled face.
Yeah.
Cheech, I haven't seen Cheech in years.
Oh,
he probably looks just like he did back then.
Wait, wasn't Chong that long-haired guy in that 70s show?
Correct.
Yeah, so he should still be around.
Well, that show's 20 years old, Bonnie.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the kids in that show, too, are all grown up.
Tommy Chong did not die. He is alive. He's 80 years old.
Well, thanks for proving me wrong then. I'm glad he's still with us. Cameron Crowe is 61, director of Jerry Maguire. He directed Almost Famous, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I've seen all 3 movies. He has directed some good ones.
I didn't realize Chong was so much older than Cheech.
He is, huh?
8 years older.
8 years. Mm-hmm. Cheech and Chong with that bong.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I should get a gold star for that one.
Wow.
I won't.
Participation award.
It's July 13th. It's our birthdays and back in the day.
All right, 6:52 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. A grand jury has decided to not indict a Martin County deputy following a fatal Indiantown shooting. WPTV's Amy Littman has the details.
At least 12 of the 19 grand jury members decided not to indict Martin County Sheriff's Office Deputy John Welliver in the death of 46-year-old Jerry Richardson. The grand jury released its decision just around 3 o'clock this afternoon. They did not find probable cause to charge Welliver in Richardson's death. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says Welliver shot Richardson 5 times after some kind of confrontation. Richardson had a machete on him at the time, but his family says he carried that machete with him everywhere because he did landscaping. Richardson's family members were emotional following the decision, but they say this is not the end.
It doesn't take 6 shots, 5 of which hitting my brother in the chest and killing him, and yet and still be justified by saying it had every right to do so. That's not right.
Richardson's family does plan to take some sort of next step in the legal process. They are consulting with a lawyer on that. Amy Littman, WPTV News Channel 5.
The St. Lucie County Fire District said that a Thursday afternoon house fire in Port St. Lucie appears to have been started after lightning struck the roof. Crews said the fire quickly spread throughout the home on Hamberland Avenue. The Red Cross was called to assist 3 adults, a child, and a dog. No injuries were reported. The Jensen Beach Causeway will close tonight at 5 p.m. for Martin Health Foundation's 17th annual Goombay Bash. The closure includes Jensen Beach Causeway Park, the boat ramps, and the pavilions. Saturday's Goombay Bash event raises funds for maternal, child, and pediatric services at Martin Health. Boat ramps will be available at the Stewart Causeway and the Jensen Beach boat ramp next to the U.S. Sailing Center of Martin County at Indian Riverside Park. Now, there's not expected to be any changes to the regular traffic patterns. The causeway will reopen Saturday at midnight. That's a look at our Treasure Coast News here this morning. It's 6:55.
showing one accident, and this is in Fort Pierce on the Turnpike. It's a vehicle crash with injuries, and there's roadblock. Turnpike southbound, mile marker 158. The center lane is blocked. If you see traffic, let us know about it at 220-WSTU. there is one accident out on the turnpike. This is in St. Lucie County. It's a vehicle crash with injuries. Turnpike southbound, mile marker 158 in Fort Pierce is where it's at, and the center lane is blocked, so there's some backup up that way. Call if you see traffic, 220-9788, 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
76 now in Stewart. It's 73 in Port St. Lucie. Let's get more on our weekend forecast at WPTV.
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are in Britain for the next phase of a diplomatic trip that got off to a rocky start at the NATO summit in Belgium.
The Secret Service said schools can recognize troubling communications and behaviors, negative or stressful events that may precede violence.
It's not to criminalize the student. We want schools to be able to identify students in distress.
2 Northern California counties are battling a wildfire that has charred more than 140 square miles so far, at least 20 structures destroyed.
Mark Short, President Trump's point man for dealing with Congress, is quitting.
Peter Strzok is testifying before a contentious joint hearing of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committee.
Charges against adult film star Stormy Daniels already have been dropped.
Academy Sports says they fired 32-year-old Dean Crouch from their store in Tallahassee, even though he was able to stop a robbery suspect.
Netflix has received the most nominations of any TV outlet for the 70th Emmy Awards, breaking a streak held for nearly 2 decades by HBO.
So yesterday, the toy company Build-A-Bear, the Build-A-Bear Workshop, they ran a special sale where kids could get a bear for the price of their age, which is a great discount since these bears usually run at least $20. And these things are incredibly popular with the kids. They've got parties that they do at these Build-A-Bear workshops. You go and you literally build your stuffed bear. And they've been popular for a while. And Bonnie, we were talking last hour about locations for these things. I looked it up. There's none here on the Treasure Coast, it looks like. According to their website, the closest is down in Palm Beach Gardens. I do know that there's a couple up in Central Florida, and they're all over the country. They're not few and far between. It's just we don't happen to have any right here in our immediate area. But I guarantee you there's some parents that drove down to Palm Beach Gardens to take advantage of this sale that was going on yesterday, because unfortunately for the Build-A-Bear company, it's summer, kids aren't in school, parents are pulling their hair out trying to think of something to do with their kids. So everyone got the memo about this sale yesterday. Even I heard about it, and I don't even have a kid. So massive crowds showed up at the Build-A-Bear stores all across the country, hundreds, sometimes thousands of people at each location. I think they said the New York City one had 1,500 people show up at just one of the stores in Manhattan.
Yeah, and could you imagine how small that storefront has to be and crowd like 1,500 people?
Yeah, there were lines that took hours just to get into the store, and moms and their kids were just over it by the time it was over. This is a clip of some of the moms melting down over the long lines.
This is crazy. This is a crazy event.
You better call somebody real fast, because we're about to have a problem out here.
Because there's people that have been out here for 7 hours and not want to get in for their babies.
Got to get in for their babies. The stores started running out of inventory quickly. They did not plan for this at all. And according to reports, things were descending into, quote, madness. So at around 11:30 yesterday morning, they pulled the plug on the entire promotion, and they said on their social media pages that they're shutting down the promotion for, quote, safety concerns. And now it's just, this blew up in Build-A-Bear's face. They're getting trashed on Facebook and Twitter. And I can't imagine a promotion that could have gone worse for them than this one.
They can just take a deep sigh of relief that nobody got killed during this and nobody got trampled. And as far as people that supported Build-A-Bear and wanted to go to these promotions, they should be happy that, they said, this is insane. Enough is enough. Let's just end this in time before somebody gets hurt.
Be happy
or really killed.
I spent my entire morning hanging out in line, and I didn't get a $1 bear.
Well,
or a $4 bear.
Things could be worse in life.
Well,
but I had no idea we had one as close as Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah,
that's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
It's always fun to kind of look back through some of businesses and their terrible decisions that they've made. This was a bad promotion that blew up in Build-A-Bear's face. Sometimes you have PR events or just PR nightmares. Papa John's keeps going through it. Man, did you see what happened now?
I did.
Latest with that. What was that guy thinking?
I don't know
what was Papa
he was thinking. He's striking me as such an
idiot?
Arrogant cord lately.
Yeah,
I just don't. That just blows me away. And I saw him in new commercials after kind of like the first incident where I know he had to step down as being like vice president or
CEO.
Yeah, he had to step down, and then he was coming back in commercials where he was by himself. And I thought, okay, this is some sort of a comeback for him, and they're still keeping him here, as the face of Papa John's. But now with this latest one, it just sounds kind of unusual.
Well, if you haven't heard, Papa John, I forget that guy's real name.
Schnatter, John Schnatter.
That's it. I'll call him Papa just to keep things. He's the creator. He's the one who started Papa John's, and it's one of the biggest pizza franchises in the world. I think it's third behind Domino's and Pizza Hut. But he's the guy that was on the commercials going, better pizza, better ingredients, Papa John's.
And with our favorite quarterback, Peyton
Manning, was a big part of their promotion deal. Was Peyton was given a bunch of franchise locations in the Denver area. But anyway,
I think he quit that by now. I think he's getting out of it.
I wouldn't be surprised with everything going on. The drama first started when Papa John came out there and said that he was going to or started blaming the players kneeling during the national anthem for their poor pizza sales, and people went, maybe it's because your pizza's not all that good. And then he had to step down as CEO, but he was still president of the company, and he was still kind of the face of the franchise. And then during a conference call, he dropped the N-word. Just right in a conference call, talking about marketing. He was talking about KFC and Colonel Sanders and how Colonel Sanders would use that word.
Oh my.
And it's just, it had no bearing on, he didn't need to say it, is what it boiled down to. There was no reason for him to say it. The point he was trying to make wasn't all that important. And he could have gotten his message across by saying not that word. He could have said literally any other word. There's so many ways he could have said it and still gotten his point across. It shows a colossal failure in critical thinking skills. And he got pretty much booted out of everything. I think he's stepping down as president. He's losing all of his other stuff. He's still going to be the major shareholder in the company, though. I don't think they can force him to sell those.
Yeah. I just can't believe that he would do that. Oh, on the other note, for another popular celebrity of a big company, the Toys R Us giraffe, I think its name is, was it George the Giraffe? Jeffrey the Giraffe. There's a real Jeffrey the Giraffe, and there's good news. He went to he because it's Jeffrey, went to a sanctuary where I think he's at a sanctuary for to help out sick kids, where kids that are in the hospital can come and see and feed this giraffe. So it was the Toys R Us giraffe was like a real giraffe. Okay.
You're telling me there was a real giraffe called Jeffrey.
Yeah.
And not the mascot giraffe that they always busted out whenever Jeffrey was making an appearance.
Not just a fake.
So the mascot that they had an actual mascot, that was a person in a giraffe costume.
Mhm.
You're telling me that besides that, Jeffrey,
Yeah.
there was an actual giraffe, living giraffe called Jeffrey that
Yeah.
the company had as a mascot.
A living one.
Where
quite
did they
like you
keep
see,
Jeffrey?
Quite like you see at Lion Country Safari.
Where
like
did they
those,
keep? Where did they keep Jeffrey?
Now that I'm not sure, but I just saw a fast news snippet where they said Jeffrey the giraffe of Toys R Us giraffe. He went to this nice sanctuary, and they showed him outside the fence, and kids were feeding him the grass, kind of like they do at Lion Country Safari.
Mm.
So I mean, there's some good news, in our famous world of franchises today.
Well, the website here, this is 24/7 Wall Street. Keeping on with the business blunder motif that we're going with here. They put together a list of the 50 most failed products of all time. Things like the number one that they had on here was Google Glass. Do you remember those?
Google Glasses.
Yeah.
I probably should.
I can't believe it's only been 5 years, or it's already been 5 years since these things came out. They were those high-tech glasses that you could wear. They would take video, they would take pictures, and they were just regular glasses you would wear on your face, and you could supposedly listen to music with them. You could access the internet with them, and it would just project all the stuff right on your glasses, so you could see a computer overlay over the real world.
That sounds like a product that should not have failed.
Well, the problem was they were $1,500.
Oh,
and the
that's
price
why.
tag was too high, and nobody was buying them, but they still freaked out a lot of people. There were people that were very freaked out about the idea that they could be videotaped by somebody wearing their just regular glasses.
Right.
And
Like,
it
oh.
caused a little bit of a stir, needlessly, because nobody really had them. But this website, 24/7 Wall Street, has listed Google Glass as the biggest failed product of all time.
You know what
The rest
reminded-
of the stuff on the list, though, is pretty good. What were you going to say?
It reminded me when you said they were fearful of what was behind the glasses. Right away, I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator, and him coming with those glasses that he always wore, and freaky like what's the computer behind the glass? That just reminded me of Terminator.
They've got a bunch of stuff in here. The Keanu Reeves movie 47 Ronin lost $150 million in 2013. That made the list. The Samsung Galaxy Note 7, which wouldn't stop exploding back in
Right.
2016. The Arch Deluxe at McDonald's back in 1996.
That was that burger. What they came out with the
Yeah.
Arch Deluxe. What year was that?
1996. Nobody really liked it, I guess.
I guess not. I
The-
remember it well.
The Microsoft Zune MP3 player from 2006 that fell to the iPod, and that was a great joke in the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It ends with the main character's got all these audio cassettes of songs that his mother gave him when he was a kid in the 80s, and all of his cassettes get destroyed, and one of the
Oh.
characters gives him a Zune. And they're like, it's the
Nice.
thing that everyone on Earth is listening to nowadays.
Well, that should have sold a lot of them then.
It's got 300 songs on it. The Zune was listed as a huge flop. Some of the other stuff, you had this Heinz. Do you remember this? Heinz Easy Squirt Blue Ketchup.
I don't remember that.
I remember it's from 2000. They were marketing it towards kids. It was blue, and it was thinner so that it could actually squirt easier than regular ketchup.
Oh,
so you
man.
had this blue thin liquid that you were pouring over your fries that was supposed to be ketchup. It was
Yeah.
disgusting.
That's just what you want right on your hot dog. Oh, blue ketchup that's just thin and pours all over the place.
Yeah. The Windows Vista operating system was number 10.
I sort of remember that Windows Vista.
It was the follow-up to Windows XP, and it was super buggy.
Uh-huh.
And Dell offered it at first, and it was so bad they went back to putting XP on all of its new laptops just a couple of months later.
I bet a lot of companies had to regroup after that and with the other product.
New Coke was number 9.
We talked about that the other day.
Yep. Touch of Yogurt shampoo. I don't remember this one.
That sounds like a shampoo I would use. Yogurt sounds like it would be good for your hair and sweet.
It came out in 1979, and no one bought it. And apparently some of the people who did thought that they were supposed to eat it.
They could make an avocado shampoo too then, and people could make guacamole out of it.
Yeah. There was a TV show called Terra Nova that Fox spent over $50 million on, including $20 million on the pilot alone.
Wow.
And it got canceled after 13 episodes. That was a big flop.
Uh-huh.
Cheetos lip balm. People wanted their lips to taste like Cheetos.
That sounds just completely ridiculous.
Remember the first e-cigarettes, the premier smokeless cigarettes from the 80s?
A little bit.
RJ Reynolds sunk almost $1 billion into them, and they were yanked off the shelves in less than a year because people hated the taste. Burger King's Satis fries from 2013, they were supposed to be healthier than their normal fries, but no one cared. They didn't taste that good.
Yeah, it seems like lately I noticed Burger King. No, it was Wendy's. We had fries from Wendy's, and it seems like that chain is trying to get their fries more and more like McDonald's. Like when we had fries at Wendy's the other day, we're saying, wow, these are pretty good. They're close to the McDonald's fries.
Wendy's used to have my least favorite fries. They would be very cold very quickly. So if you were getting fries, you had to kind of eat them first thing. And then they changed the recipe a couple of years ago, and it almost reminded me of more of fresh cut French fries.
Mm-hmm.
And they were much better. Still not as good as McDonald's, but much better.
McDonald's has that special coating, like a secret coating over them or something, and salted just right.
And then number 3 on the list is another video game. It was the Atari game based on E.T., the Extraterrestrial. They thought the movie was huge. We're going to make this tie-in game, and it's going to sell millions of copies. So before the game ever made it to store shelves, they printed 4 million copies of this game. They only sold 1.5 million, which is still a lot. A lot of people went out to buy it, but then they started telling everybody this game is terrible.
Oh my.
And so they had 2.5 million copies of this game left over. They didn't know what to do with them. So they've literally buried them all in a landfill in New Mexico.
Really?
There's a hole in the ground in New Mexico, and it's filled with millions of copies of this video game.
Oh man. Is that the same landfill where they have all of the disco records? Maybe
it is where they put all the extra Bee Gees records that nobody bought. And then number 1 was Google Glass. Number 2 was the Newton, Apple's digital notepad from 1993, which I vaguely remember. I don't think people were ready for something like that yet.
I'm surprised that Zima is not on that list either.
It's not in the top 10, but I bet you, well, I don't know. It was bad, but they keep bringing it back every once in a while.
They were trying to make some sort of a comeback with it.
Crystal Pepsi made the list.
Oh, yeah.
That was gross.
That is because they made it white, clear like crystal, and it just psychologically when you're it's a psychological thing when you drank that because you're like it looks like you're drinking water, yet it tastes like Pepsi. It's something just didn't do it psychologically when it looked like water.
Harley Davidson perfume.
Oh.
What do you smell like? Motor oil?
I want to smell like a biker babe.
Yeah, apparently.
For sure.
It smells like oil and sunburn. That came out in 1994. It didn't last too long. 7:23 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says it plans to resume releasing water from Lake Okeechobee today. The water level in the lake is approaching 14.5 feet, up over 1.5 feet from its 2018 low back in May. The Corps said they will implement pulse release charges that will attempt to simulate rainfall events in an effort to reduce some of the environmental impacts. Discharges from Lake Okeechobee combined with rain, pollutants, and heat have caused toxic algae blooms. Now, critics of the discharges say it's not only hurting the ecosystem, but their economy as well. The Corps said they have to release the water because holding too much water in Lake Okeechobee threatens the Herbert Hoover Dike, putting the lives of everyone who lives around the lake at risk. Health officials are urging everyone to avoid blue-green algae, but what if you have to work on or in the water? Well, WPTV's Alex Hagan spoke to those that do have to work on or in the water every day for a living.
That water that you mentioned in that Lake water is going to come through the Port Mayaca lock and then eventually come through the St. Lucie lock here, and it's going to flow down here in the P44 canal and eventually into the St. Lucie estuary, of course, raising even more health concerns. But as you said, business owners, they have to stay open to maintain a living. At Outboards Only,
These are all storage boats. These here.
it's business as usual, fixing boats, cleaning them up near or on the water.
We're in the water every day.
Co-owner Phil Norman is no stranger to the water crisis. This site was considered ground zero in 2016. In 2018,
I've actually been thinking about it quite a bit lately.
thinking a lot about those potential health issues after all those reports at Martin Health System of people coming in with symptoms believed to be related to algae, rashes, respiratory issues. Now Phil is worried for his employees.
What it's going to do to us now, what's going to happen in the future, don't know. Yeah, it's concerning. At the same time, we still got to get out here and make a living. This is what we do to earn money to pay our bills.
Just down the street at the other 2016 ground zero business.
Might be heading our way is concerning.
Different place, same story. But if it gets too bad,
In the event that it gets really, really bad, but once again, we'd have to shut down the business.
sometimes it's just not worth it.
I do full yacht management.
John McConnell knows all too well.
If it's like 2 years ago, I can't work on the boat here.
Now, when I spoke with Dr. Michael Romano with Martin Health System earlier this week, he advised folks not to be in the water, around the water, but he mentioned those who have to be around the water for their business, that they wear wetsuits, also, of course, a mask if they're near algae. Alex Hagan for The Now, South Florida.
Deputies were back at work Thursday trying to find the rest of a person's remains at a construction site in St. Lucie County. On Wednesday, a construction worker who was clearing a lot to build a personal storage facility on Kinnerman Road just west of US 1 found a human skull.
We've got a lot of soft spots out here with different debris and looked like a coconut sitting there, and I moved it out of the way and it wasn't a coconut.
Construction Superintendent Hank Richards said after he found the skull, he immediately called the police. Now, deputies don't know the age, gender, or manner of death. Chief Deputy Gary Wilson said the remains must have been there for at least 2 to 3 years.
What happens a lot of times in a case like this is you have animals that get involved and they start moving things around. If we're not finding all the pieces, we're going to continue to look for the pieces.
Deputies said homeless people do frequent the area where the remains were found. Deputies also checked to see if anyone was reported missing in the area in the past couple of years, but no one came up in their search. The League of Women Voters filed a lawsuit to boot Prop 8 from the Florida ballot. League attorney Ron Meyer says the official summary for the charter school amendment is misleading, and the entire proposition is designed to deceive voters.
They packaged some bad stuff with things that sparkle. In other words, people seem to like term limits, so that's in there. They seem to like the requirement of teaching civic literacy, so that's in there.
Meyer says the real purpose of Amendment 8 is to allow political appointees to create charter schools that would not be controlled by or accountable to your local school district. More workers are having a hard time getting away from it all, according to a study by Account Temps, a company of the staffing firm Robert Half International. Even when people take vacations, they're taking the job with them. Noel Teal is an executive with the outfit's Orlando office. He says they're seeing a trend of people who can't disconnect even when they should.
The majority of workers are having a difficult time disconnecting when they leave the office, whether that's fear of losing their job or getting too far behind in the work that they're performing. But a lot of people are just still focused on making sure that things are going well and having that difficulty of fully disconnecting while they're away.
Now, he says younger workers tend to stay more plugged in thanks to their familiarity with technology and social media. One of Florida's best-known environmentalists has died. Nathaniel Reed was 84. He served as an advisor to 6 Florida governors. His family says he had been in a coma since falling and hitting his head during a trip to Canada. U.S. Senator Bill Nelson has been pushing to name a proposed reservoir in the Everglades to honor Reed. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news here this morning. The time is 7:30. Let's go ahead and get a look at our traffic here with Bonnie.
And there's 2 accidents on the Turnpike. One in Martin County. It's a hit and run crash. Turnpike southbound in Hope Sound at mile marker 124. There's not any roadblock. And in Fort Pierce, too, it's a vehicle crash with injuries southbound on the Turnpike. And there is roadblock there. The central lane is blocked. And call us if you see traffic at 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
And for this afternoon, a partly sunny sky with the high getting up to right around 90 degrees. And of course, chance for some rain showers popping through this afternoon. Tonight, a low of 73. In the weekend, well, I'm seeing a dry forecast for this weekend, Treasure Coast. Partly sunny Saturday and Sunday, but a hot one. The highs reaching 91. Going to be good for beach days for sure. In Port St. Lucie, right now we have 74 and it's 76 in Stewart. This weather was brought to you by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares, calls you back, shows up and finishes on time. Call 287-2829.
Fox on Film.
I'm Michelle Polino. In Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation, Count Dracula makes a romantic connection while on a vacation with his family. However, the woman may not be who she says she is.
You were right, great-grandfather Van Helsing. Monsters are disgusting.
The animated film features the voices of Adam Sandler, Andy Samberg, and Selena Gomez.
What's going on?
In Skyscraper, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson plays an FBI hostage rescue team leader and U.S. war veteran who now assesses security for skyscrapers on assignment in China. He finds the tallest, safest building is not so safe and suddenly ablaze.
If we're going to get out of here, you're going to have to tell me the truth.
And he's been framed.
Being yourself is like not changing yourself to impress someone else.
In limited release, the film 8th Grade, we meet 13-year-old Kayla who navigates her way through her last week of middle school.
When did you get Snapchat? What grade?
In this social media inundated world. That's Fox on Film on Fox News.
Fox on Tech.
Just a few days after a fresh batch of iPhone rumors, a whole bunch of rumors about possible new Apple products. An Apple supply chain analyst with TF International Securities predicts a long overdue Mac refresh from laptops to desktops and even a new iPad. The Mac Mini, which hasn't been updated since October of 2014, is rumored to finally be getting an upgrade. Back in April of 2017, Apple said it's an important product. The slim, inexpensive Mac has been popular since it was introduced as an affordable Mac or media server for home entertainment. The MacBook Air, also long overdue for a refresh, should also get a speed bump and design change. And the Mac Pro, which hasn't seen an upgrade since 2013, should also get a new design and long-awaited performance increase. The supply chain analyst also says we could see a new iPad Pro with Face ID, like in the iPhone X, and an Apple Watch upgrade, which will bring larger screens. Expect the official announcements in the fall. With Fox on Tech, I'm Brett Larson, Fox News.
Baseball yesterday, the Rays had a day to forget up in Minnesota. Kyle Gibson struck out 9 Rays batters over 8 easy innings after Tampa Bay ace Blake Snell was handed his shortest start of the season. Twins got a 5-1 win over the Rays. Elsewhere, the Pirates doubled up the Brewers 6-3. The Red Sox got past the Blue Jays 6-4. The Red Sox have been red hot yesterday. They are on a 10-game winning streak. Their record is 66-29. Yankees got past the Indians 7-4. Nationals edged the Mets 5-4, and the Angels thumped the Mariners 11-2. The Marlins were off yesterday. They stayed in Miami, though. The Phillies came to town for a weekend series. First pitch is tonight at 7:10. Wimbledon, the women's singles side of the tournament, held their semifinals yesterday. Serena Williams defeated Julia Gorgas from Germany 6-2, 6-4 to advance to yet another Wimbledon's finals for her. She'll be facing off against Germany's Angelique Kerber. She's coming off another straight set victory of her own. So the women's final will be Saturday morning at 9 a.m. On the men's side, the semifinals are today, starting in about 20 minutes. America's John Isner is going up against Kevin Anderson. Meanwhile, the big marquee matchup is going to be at 10 a.m. this morning when Novak Djokovic faces off against Rafael Nadal. The winner from both of those matches will play in the men's Wimbledon's final. Last weekend for the World Cup, the third place game is going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. England, licking their wounds after a 2-1 loss to Croatia, will be facing against Belgium. That game is tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, the World Cup final features Croatia going up against France. That game is scheduled to kick off Sunday morning at 11 a.m. That's a look at sports here on WSTU.
I love Starbucks. I go there all the time. Some people don't like it. It's very corporate, I know, but I love it. You know why? Because they have great chocolate chip cookies. That's my favorite part. I eat one every day. But you feel like a child when you order chocolate chip cookies. You're an adult, but you feel silly. So I always say it's for my son. And then I forget that I said that, and I eat it right in front of them 2 minutes later. I have to be like, he's in the car. He's been acting up. So teaching him a lesson. I was there the other day, they forgot to get my cookie. And so I was just waiting for a while. I didn't know what to say. But then the lady who took my order, she recognized me waiting there. So she yelled out, "Did Joe get his cookie yet?" You really feel like a complete juvenile in that situation because I had to answer, "No, I did not get my cookie. And my shoe came untied while I was waiting for it." I was there the other day. I don't know if this is store policy or what, but I ordered a chocolate chip cookie, and the guy brought me over a bag with 2 cookies. He said, "I put an extra cookie in there because I accidentally broke the first one." Free cookie! Because the first one was broken. That's not a big obstacle to me. I don't know about you guys. Right before I swallow a cookie, I break it into tiny pieces using my teeth. Broken cookie's no big whoop, but I got a free one. I love it. Now that I know that, I go there, I'm like, "Can I get a chocolate chip cookie and just rough it up a little bit if you don't mind?"
Texas congressman and face painted on an egg, Louis Gohmert, lit into Strzok.
I can't help but wonder when I see you looking there with a little smirk, how many times did you look so innocent into your wife's eyes and lie to her about Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, this is outrageous.
What's
wrong with that? You need your medication.
It's a good point. I think we'd all be better off with some drugs to get through this.
Today is July 13th, National French Fries Day.
Well, there you go. Just when we want to start our diets again, let's go have some French fries.
The average American eats about 20 to 30 pounds of French fries every single year. And a medium fry at McDonald's is 4.1 ounces. So that means we all eat the equivalent of 78 to 117 medium fries every year, which means we're having it once every 3 to 5 days. No wonder we're all overweight and going to die soon.
It's funny they call them French fries because I believe they started like in Belgium.
Really?
Actually, yep. And they're number one here in America. We eat far more French fries than people in France do even.
It's just they're served everywhere.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere without finding some type of French fries. McDonald's, of course, has the most popular French fries of any fast food chain. What would some of the other top 5 choices be there, Bonnie?
Checkers.
Checkers. No. Outside. Their seasoned fries are really good, though. I like them.
Yeah, so are there like smothered garbage fries with like everything on them. It used to just be like, an unhealthy habit for me. I would go through the drive-thru of Checkers and order those so many times on the way home.
Chick-fil-A had the number 2 spot. Their waffle fries are delicious.
They are.
They're perfect for picking up the sauce, whether you're dipping it into the barbecue or any of the other sauces they got there. Five Guys was number 3. Wendy's is 4 now after their recipe change. And Arby's was 5th, the 5th most popular fries out of any fast food chain. Ketchup's the most popular dipping sauce by far. Ranch came in a distant second, and cheese sauce came in the third.
Yeah, it seems like they have like a million different sauces that you can order now for, the chicken tenders and the fries. And there's like just a zillion sauces to choose from.
Yeah, you get the crazy, the crazy sauce, the mayonnaise dipping sauce. I don't understand the ketchup and mayonnaise fad.
Sriracha, maybe a sriracha. Sriracha sauce and honey mustard, which is a favorite. Blue cheese.
Honey mustard's pretty good. But I like that more for chicken tenders. French fries, it's kind of ketchup, barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And depending on the fries, some fries are really good in honey mustard, but I like that more for the chicken tenders there. Cheese sauce I used to be into until I started working at a restaurant and I saw how they made the cheese sauce.
How do they make it?
Well, it came in bags. And it would get into a machine so that the machine would warm up the bag, and then you hit a button and it just goes, and all that cheese sauce goes and fills up a cup.
Yeah.
And it totally turned my stomach, and I went, you know what? I'm not going to have cheese sauce anymore.
Well,
thanks, but no thanks.
The cheese in the bag, did it get warm for a little while or something? Or did it stay cold? As long as it would stay cold, it would still be okay for me.
No, it stays warm so that it can be served warm.
Oh, that is kind of, that's almost like cheese sauce that you get out of a can then or something. That doesn't sound very delightful either. And now they have macaroni and cheese too that you can get in a can. And that's just like, ooh, no.
Yeah, it doesn't sound all
room
that good.
temperature.
And 21% of people, which is higher than I anticipated, even though I'm one of them, 21% of people say they love dipping fries into a milkshake.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's so good. You get a nice salty French fry and you dip it into a chocolate shake. So you get the sweet and the salt and all that stuff. It's a good time.
I could see that rocking somebody's boat. I'm just like not a big milkshake girl. I rarely order one, but I could see where people would be loving that.
I remember being in college and I was sick. I had a pretty nasty head cold and my throat was real raw and just really sore. And I had this for a couple of days and I had nothing left in the house. And I was like, I got to get out of the house and go get some food. And of course, I'm in college. So going to get food doesn't mean going to the grocery store and getting soup and all this other stuff to take care of yourself. It meant going to Chick-fil-A. It meant going to the nearest fast food joint. And I remember sitting in the drive-thru and thinking, oh, I've just found the brilliant way to soothe my sore throat. I'm going to order a milkshake and a large fry.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to dip the fry, and the salt from the fry is going to help out my throat. The cool from the milkshake is going to soothe. This is going to be great. I was probably sicker than I've ever been. Not a great way to cure a head cold or a sore throat there, but it was delicious.
When it comes to time to do that, I just opt for a nice glass of tea with some honey in it to soothe my throat.
So today is National French Fries Day. Tomorrow is Macaroni Day, so you can have your macaroni and cheese. And Sunday is National Ice Cream Day.
Oh,
how about that?
Ice cream.
Yeah.
They had it on the news this morning that if you before you go to bed, ice cream and dark chocolate are some of the worst things that you can eat before bedtime.
You mean filling up on a very high calorie, high fat, high sugar content food right before laying down for 8 hours is bad for you?
That is true, Mike.
Oh my God.
And on a better note, you can fill up with bananas and nuts and milk before you go to bed, and you'll have a better night's sleep.
Or if you're trying to be healthy, which is not the point of this segment, Bonnie, if you were trying to be healthy, you would not eat before going to bed, which is what everybody tells you to do in the first place.
That's right.
40% of people say they've eaten an entire pint of ice cream in one sitting.
Oh, I don't think I've ever done that.
I've definitely done that. You get the Ben & Jerry's ice cream and you sit down and it's in a perfect bowl. You don't have to use a spoon to get it into a bowl or anything. You just start eating it right out of the pint.
Yeah.
And you get to that point. I feel everybody that's done that has gotten to a point where they look down and they have to make a choice. I'm either done or I'm eating this entire thing.
Mm-hmm. Once you're halfway through it, you just keep on going because it doesn't matter.
You get to a certain point where you look down and you realize you don't have enough to save for tomorrow. It would be a disservice to you if you were to sit down and you go, oh, I've only got a bite for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I'm just going to eat this now. And I've definitely had that. My wife and I have had those moments where we look down and sometimes that moment comes pretty early on and I can look at it and go, yeah, there's no way I'm eating this whole thing. And I'll put it away and I can stretch that pint out to 2 or 3 days. But then there are other times where you just start eating and you go, you know what? This pint's gone. This pint's not making it to tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
It is not getting there.
The best thing to do is just not to have the ice cream in the house.
Again, not the point of the segment.
I know, but I was in the ice cream place in Walmart the other day searching for my ice cream, which I got the gelato, and I heard one mom say to her kids, we don't need any ice cream. We have enough ice cream. I can only imagine how many cartons of ice cream they probably have in their freezer and all the different flavors.
Yeah.
There's too many to choose from. You can't even decide.
24% eat ice cream to feel better when they're sad. Almost a quarter of us. 22% have eaten it to feel better after a breakup. And 9% of us have cried while eating ice cream.
Really?
That's straight out of the movies.
Mm-hmm.
16% have gotten sick from eating too much ice cream. And 13% of people say, yeah, I'm lactose intolerant, but I'm still eating that ice cream. Nothing's going to get me to stop eating ice cream.
Mm-hmm. You got to have that 2 or 3 scoops, 2 or 3 tablespoonfuls, like Dr. Tread says. Or is it 2 or 3 teaspoonfuls only?
9% have used ice cream to end an argument. And finally, 7% have canceled plans to stay home and eat ice cream.
Yeah, like if you broke up with your girlfriend and you want to get back with her, don't show up at the doorstep with a dozen roses. Show up with some Breyers ice cream.
There you go. 7:51 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. A grand jury has decided not to indict a Martin County deputy following a fatal Indiantown shooting. WPTV's Amy Littman has the details.
At least 12 of the 19 grand jury members decided not to indict Martin County Sheriff's Office Deputy John Walliver in the death of 46-year-old Jerry Richardson. The grand jury released its decision just around 3 o'clock this afternoon. They did not find probable cause to charge Walliver in Richardson's death. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says Walliver shot Richardson 5 times after some kind of confrontation. Richardson had a machete on him at the time, but his family says he carried that machete with him everywhere because he did landscaping. Richardson's family members were emotional following the decision, but they say this is not the end.
It doesn't take 6 shots, 5 of which hitting my brother in the chest and killing him, and yet and still be justified by saying it had every right to do so. That's not right.
Richardson's family does plan to take some sort of next step in the legal process. They are consulting with a lawyer on that. Amy Littman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
The St. Lucie County Fire District said a Thursday afternoon house fire in Port St. Lucie appears to have been started after lightning struck the roof. Crews said the fire quickly spread throughout the home on Hamberland Avenue. The Red Cross was called to assist 3 adults, a child, and a dog. No injuries were reported. No one was hurt, and a puppy is safe after a 2-vehicle crash snarled traffic Thursday morning on I-95 northbound in St. Lucie County. The wreck occurred around 5:30 yesterday morning, just north of the Okeechobee Road interchange in Fort Pierce. The St. Lucie Fire District said the vehicles sustained heavy damage, but no one had to be transported to the hospital. Now, when the crash occurred, a puppy escaped one of the vehicles. However, a nearby passerby recovered the dog. Florida has some of the highest bank fees in the nation. That, according to the comparison site depositaccounts.com. Spokesman Ken Tuman says West Palm Beach fees are the highest in the nation, followed by Orlando, Tampa, and Miami.
For Tampa, the average overdraft fee is just under $35, and the average ATM fee is $2.40, and then the average monthly fee is $5.36.
Tuman says we have a lot of large banking institutions here in our state, and they tend to charge higher fees than online banks or credit unions. Meanwhile, another survey ranks Florida as the 5th best state for retirement. Bankrate.com's categories include weather, crime, healthcare, taxes, and the cost of living. South Dakota came in the coveted number 1 spot. New York was rock bottom. That's a look at Treasure Coast News at 7:56.
Right now in St. Lucie County on I-95, a hit-and-run crash. We're seeing this I-95 southbound in Port St. Lucie at mile marker 124. We're not seeing roadblock there, and we've been looking at that vehicle crash with injuries, too, throughout the morning. This one in Fort Pierce on the Turnpike, southbound mile marker 158. Looks like that center lane is still blocked, and traffic still blocked in that southbound direction. Call if you see traffic. We're at 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
We have 75 in Port St. Lucie, Stewart up to 79. And let's get more on our forecast at
President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are in Britain for the next phase of a diplomatic trip that got off to a rocky start at the NATO summit in Belgium.
The Secret Service said schools can recognize troubling communications and behaviors or stressful events that may precede violence.
It's not to criminalize the student. We want schools to be able to identify students in distress.
2 Northern California counties are battling a wildfire that has charred more than 140 square miles so far, at least 20 structures destroyed.
Mark Short, President Trump's point man for dealing with Congress, is quitting.
Peter Strzok is testifying before a contentious joint hearing of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committee.
Charges against adult film star Stormy Daniels already have been dropped. Academy Sports says they fired 32-year-old Dean Crouch from their store in Tallahassee, even though he was able to stop a robbery suspect.
Netflix has received the most nominations of any TV outlet for the 70th Emmy Awards, breaking a streak held for nearly 2 decades by HBO.
So if you're on Twitter or social media at all, but mainly Twitter, you probably have realized that there's some fake accounts out there. I know that a lot of the followers that were on mine, I don't post a lot to Twitter, so there's no reason for me to have a lot of followers. And I was up over 100, and I'm sure that a large chunk of that was all bots, as they call them, fake accounts, things like that. And yesterday, Twitter started purging some of these fake accounts. And we probably didn't realize just how many fake accounts were on Twitter until we started looking at the follower counts of celebrities and how much they dropped, because some of them dropped by the millions. It was incredible how many followers were dropped from some of these celebrities. The good news for Katy Perry is that she's still the most followed person on Twitter. She lost 1.5 million followers yesterday, though.
Imagine to have that many followers even and have 1.5 million to lose.
Sure.
I mean, imagine that.
The account that took the biggest hit, though, ironically enough, was Twitter itself. The company's @Twitter account lost over 7.5 million followers.
My word. So does that mean Twitter's going to go out of business, or
No.
is it going to do anything
It
to
has
them?
nothing to do with this. These are all fake accounts that are being, maybe it affects the advertising numbers.
Yeah.
But this isn't really going to affect too much. This is really Twitter just being able to say the people that are on here are more likely to be real, actual individuals, as opposed to some of these fake accounts that have been set up. President Trump lost about 300,000 from his @Real Donald Trump. Barack Obama, Ellen DeGeneres, and Taylor Swift lost around 2 million followers each. Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga lost around 1.5 million. And they're calling this the purge. And Twitter is going to be doing this over the next several days so we can see some of these numbers drop even more.
I wonder if this burns the celebrity's ego just a little bit, to
Maybe.
think I had 200,000 more followers and now I really didn't. It's all fake.
Maybe. I know that a lot of celebrities, they make money off of the number of followers that they've got. I mean, with Katy Perry, she's got 108 million followers. There's value in a tweet from her. There's a lot of that money that she can make with various paid tweets. I don't know if she does or not, but she could very easily go to companies and say, I have 108 million people that are going to see whatever I tweet out.
Imagine the money you could make if you could do that.
And there are people that make good money by doing that.
I just wonder who are the people following these celebrities like Katy Perry, and I know a lot of them probably follow Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner. I mean, who are the people that follow this and don't have anything better to do? I'm not on there
It has
following.
nothing to do with having anything better to do. It's just that's the way the medium works. If you're a fan of somebody, you like them on there, and you can see what they tweet out. Sometimes it is stupid stuff like, "Oh, I'm going down to the store to go get a sandwich." A lot of times when it's a celebrity, it's here's the link to my latest single, or here's the latest on my new album that's going to come out. And if you're a fan of somebody, that's cool information to have.
I mean, I guess that's being like a really big fan then.
Well, all right. Let's
think.
just leave it at it's not for you.
It's
let's leave it
not.
at it's not for you.
I probably say I was a big John Mellencamp fan in the past. All right. I would like to go to his concerts, but that's not going to mean I'm going to waste my time following John Mellencamp.
I don't know why you phrase it as
Twitter.
I don't know why you phrase it as wasting time. It doesn't. It's if Twitter's not for you, that's fine. But Twitter's a cool resource to be able to pull all these different things that you like into one. And so, you're flipping through your feed and, it can be whatever you make it. If it's all musicians, you're getting the latest on all the musicians you like.
Yeah, I
that's
guess
not wasting time.
If that's your thing. Yeah.
If that's your thing. If you like video games, you put all the people on there that like video games, and it's more discussion on what you like. It's not wasting time. That's making the most of your time.
I would rather just be out bicycling or exercising or doing something
then
like
that's
that.
but that's for you.
Yeah.
That's you. That's fine. So you don't have to worry about Twitter, but that doesn't mean it's wasting time for other people.
Okay, so I'm sorry for being ignorant about it.
Good. That's all I wanted to hear. Let's see. The Emmy nominees are out. And the nominees for this year's Primetime Emmys, Game of Thrones leads the way with 22 nods. Saturday Night Live and Westworld are next with 21 apiece. The Handmaid's Tale is close behind them with 20. I've got to see that show.
I don't want to see it because, I don't know, a client at work, a client of mine was telling me how dark it is.
Yeah.
And, I just don't want to watch it and get all depressed.
But it's apparently very well done.
Once again, you're rooting for these people. And if you see something disgusting, you're going to go to bed angry.
Yeah. Well, apparently it is a very dark and dystopian story that it's telling, but it's done in a very good way. It's very well done.
I
haven't talked to anybody that has watched it and said, no, I don't like that show.
I believe it. Just like, Game of Thrones could leave you feeling so angry and completely nuts, but how well it's put together and the story behind it, how it's very well done. I'm sure that's what A Handmaid's Tale is like.
The biggest winner is probably Netflix, which is officially the new king of TV. They scored 112 nominations as a network, which ended HBO's 17-year run as the most nominated network. HBO ended up with 108. And we already had a story a couple of weeks ago about how Netflix is the number one way that people are getting their TV entertainment now. And we're starting to see that shift with the Emmy nominations. And it was just 5 years ago that Netflix made history by being the first streaming platform to even get an Emmy nomination and win. And here we are 5 years later, and they're dominating.
Mm-hmm.
Broadcast networks don't get a lot of attention these days, but NBC got the third most nominations with 78, thanks to Saturday Night Live, the hit show This Is Us, and their special Jesus Christ Superstar, that live in concert.
That was live, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Saturday Night Live extended its existing record for the most nominations of all time with 252. I just don't see how anybody's going to break that record anytime soon. Saturday Night Live's been on the air for how many decades now?
Some 30 or 40 years, is it now?
Yeah, they're winning a lot of awards over that time frame. It's going to be a while before anybody cracks that. Game of Thrones is next at 129. They're going into their 8th and final season, and they were getting tons of nominations all along the way. ER is third on the list with 124. Remember when ER was the big thing?
Yeah, it was. It seems like quite a while ago, too. Like that's been on the air for a really long time.
Yeah. This surprises me. Peter Dinklage is the most nominated person ever in the Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series category. He's had 7 nominations for his role as Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones, and he's won twice now.
Just for that very one role, and he's already won 2 awards.
Mm-hmm.
He is just like on fire.
Sandra Oh is the first nominee of Asian descent in the leading actress in a drama series category for her role in the BBC America show Killing Eve.
She's a wonderful actress. She should have been up for a role, too, when she was on like Grey's Anatomy. I thought she portrayed her character so well in that.
Several big-name celebrities got their first Emmy nomination. I didn't realize that these would be their first, but Jessica Biel got her first Emmy nom for The Sinner. Penelope Cruz and Ricky Martin both were nominated for the assassination of Gianni Versace, an American crime story.
Ooh, I bet that's a good one.
Cat Williams was nominated for Atlanta. John Legend for Jesus Christ Superstar. And John's nomination is especially interesting because if he wins, he'll reach that legendary EGOT status. And it means he'll win an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
That's John Legend, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that he would have won a Grammy or an Oscar or any of those.
Was he involved in like the live Jesus Christ Superstars?
I think he was Jesus.
Okay.
I think he was the lead. He's got 10 Grammys. Obviously, he's a major musician. He's won an Oscar for his song "Glory" from Selma, and his Tony came from co-producing a show called Jitney.
Never heard
Only
of the
12
show.
people have won EGOT status, and that's the likes of Mel Brooks and Whoopi Goldberg and some other big names. You have to be a pretty legendary to get the EGOT status.
Did Whoopi? Don't you have to sing in that too, like to win the Grammy? Is the Grammy involved in EGOT?
Well, you could do a spoken word album.
Oh, maybe that's
you could
what
be a
Whoopi
comedian.
did.
I don't know what her Grammy was.
Yeah, I don't remember her like singing anything or doing anything musical, but maybe it's just something that I missed.
Yeah,
Who are the other ones?
I don't have that information off the top
you
of my
don't
head.
have the list. You
No.
mentioned Penelope.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
I can get it here. So we've got Richard Rodgers, Helen Hayes, Rita Moreno, Audrey Hepburn. I'm going to just do the names that I recognize. Mel Brooks, Whoopi Goldberg, Scott Rudin, and Robert Lopez are the winners. Barbara Streisand got it. Liza Minnelli got it. James Earl Jones, Alan Menken, Harry Belafonte, Quincy Jones.
Quincy Jones, just a classic record producer of some 30 or 40 years. He put his mark on a lot of material.
Yeah, sure did. So the 70th annual Primetime Emmy Awards will air live on September 17th, and it's going to be hosted by the Weekend Update guys from Saturday Night Live, Michael Che and Colin Jost. So that
Okay.
should be fun.
That should be an entertaining night. September 17th, right?
September 17th.
Can hardly wait for it.
Some snubs from the Emmys. I guess, well, not necessarily a snub, but Roseanne, despite all the controversy, scored 2 nominations. Roseanne Barr didn't personally get any recognition, but Laurie Metcalf is up for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy for playing Jackie. And it got a technical nomination for Best Editing. Some people thought John Goodman deserved a nomination, but he didn't get it.
Well, Laurie Metcalf was up for Emmy for her portrayal in Lady Bird, the movie that came out a while ago.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Not about Lyndon Johnson's wife, though.
No, that's why I wouldn't go see it for the longest time, because I'm thinking it's about Lady Bird, the wife of the president.
Yeah.
And it's going to be some sort of a sleeper.
Modern Family used to be an Emmy darling, but this year it wasn't even nominated in a major category. It's the first year since the show debuted in 2009 that it didn't get nominated for Best Comedy Series.
I don't watch that one, but I wonder if that's just one that's had its course or
Maybe.
kind of had its day.
I mean, it's still big in the ratings, I think, for broadcast TV, but I remember watching it when it first came out and loving it. And I just, somewhere along the lines, I never stopped liking it. I just stopped watching it.
Sometimes you just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like Arrested Development, too. We started watching it, and now we just kind of fallen off the path of watching it. I don't know, you start to watch things, and then for some reason you go back to them and give them another try. That's kind of what you tend to do.
And after his suicide, Anthony Bourdain was given 7 posthumous nods for his Parts Unknown TV show. Was the latest. I don't know how he could be nominated 7 times for the same show unless it was all producer, director, best show,
maybe.
best documentary, best host, things like that. But yeah, the Emmys coming up on September 17th. 8:22 is the time here this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says that it plans to resume releasing water from Lake Okeechobee today. The water level in the lake is approaching 14.5 feet. That's up over 1.5 feet from its yearly low, which was back in May. The Corps said they will implement pulse releases that will attempt to simulate rainfall events in an effort to reduce some of the environmental impacts. Discharges from Lake Okeechobee combined with rain, pollutants, and heat have caused toxic algae blooms. Now, critics of the discharges say it's not only hurting the ecosystem, but their economy as well. The Corps said that they have to release the water, though, because holding too much water in Lake Okeechobee threatens the Herbert Hoover Dike, which in turn puts the lives of everyone who lives around the lake at risk. Now, health officials are urging everyone to avoid blue-green algae, but what if you have to work on the water? WPTV's Alex Hagan spoke to those that are on or in the water every day for a living.
That water that you mentioned in that Lake O water is going to come through the Port Mayaka Lock and then eventually come through the St. Lucie Lock here, and it's going to flow down here in the P44 Canal and eventually into the St. Lucie estuary, of course, raising even more health concerns. But as you said, business owners, they have to stay open to maintain a living. At Outboards Only,
these are all storage boats. These here,
it's business as usual, fixing boats, cleaning them up near or on the water.
We're in the water every day.
Co-owner Phil Norman is no stranger to the water crisis. This site was considered ground zero in 2016. In 2018,
I've actually been thinking about it quite a bit lately.
Thinking a lot about those potential health issues after all those reports at Martin Health System of people coming in with symptoms believed to be related to algae, rashes, respiratory issues. Now Phil is worried for his employees.
What it's going to do to us now, what's going to happen in the future, don't know. Yeah, it's concerning. At the same time, we still got to get out here and make a living. This is what we do to earn money to pay our bills.
Just down the street at the other 2016 Ground Zero business.
Might be heading our way is concerning.
Different place, same story. But if it gets too bad.
In the event that it gets really, really bad, but once again, we'd have to shut down the business.
Sometimes it's just not worth it.
I do full yacht management.
John McConnell knows all too well.
If it's like 2 years ago, I can't work on the boat here.
Now, when I spoke with Dr. Michael Romano with Martin Health System earlier this week, he advised folks not to be in the water, around the water, but he mentioned those who have to be around the water for their business, that they wear wetsuits, also, of course, a mask if they're near algae. Alex Hagan for The Now, South Florida.
Deputies were back at work Thursday trying to find the rest of a person's remains at a construction site in St. Lucie County. On Wednesday, a construction worker clearing a lot to build a personal storage facility on Kitterman Road just west of US 1 found a human skull.
Got a lot of soft spots out here with different debris and looked like a coconut sitting there, and I moved it out of the way and it wasn't a coconut.
Well, construction superintendent Hank Richards said after he found the skull, he immediately called the police. Deputies don't know the age, gender, or manner of death. Chief Deputy Gary Wilson said the remains must have been there for at least 2 to 3 years.
What happens a lot of times in a case like this is you have animals that get involved and they start moving things around. If we're not finding all the pieces, we're going to continue to look for the pieces.
Well, deputies said homeless people do frequent the area where the remains were found. Deputies checked to see if anyone was reported missing in that area in recent years, but no one came up in their search. Well, more workers are having a hard time getting away from it all, according to a study by Account Temps, a company of the staffing firm Robert Half International. Even when people take vacations, they're taking the job with them. Noel Teal is an executive with the outfit's Orlando office. He says they're seeing a trend of people who can't disconnect, even when they should.
The majority of workers are having a difficult time disconnecting when they leave the office. Whether that's fear of losing their job or getting too far behind in the work that they're performing. But a lot of people are just still focused on making sure that things are going well and having that difficulty of fully disconnecting while they're away.
He says younger workers tend to stay more plugged in thanks to their familiarity with technology and social media. That's a look at our Treasure Coast news here this morning. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Precious Metals Report, which is brought to us every morning by St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin. Gold's opening up this morning at $1,238.10 an ounce. Silver's opening at $15.74 an ounce. The Precious Metals Report brought to us by St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin.
And taking a look at traffic, it looks like all of the areas are cleared right now. The major highways, they're looking clear in Martin County and St. Lucie County at the moment. If you see traffic, let us know about it at 220-WSTU.
Treasure Coast weather.
It's 79 in Jensen Beach. WPTV weather is brought to you by Code Red Roofers. Roofers who respond. Code Red Roofers cares, calls you back, shows up, and finishes on time. Call 287-2829. Let's get more on our weekend outlook at WPTV.
Space, the final frontier with Randy Siegel and the Space Report on WSTU. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning to you, sir. Well, the astronauts on board the International Space Station continue to do a lot of science work related to cancer therapy. Their Angel X is seeking to better model in space a test for treatment that targets tumor cells and blood vessels. A lot of people don't realize that on the International Space Station, the astronauts have microscopes up there that are equipped with cameras. They also examine the different tissues that are up there. In some cases, they freeze them and they're returned to Earth on a Dragon spacecraft. So it's not like there's just an isolated case up there, but there's continuing science and research being done on board that spacecraft. The North American Grumman Cygnus space freighter has been packed full of trash and is due to leave the space station on Sunday morning. Flight engineer Alexander Gerst will command the Canadarm2 robotic arm to release Cygnus at 8:35 a.m. in the morning as Unan Chandler backs him up. It'll orbit the Earth until July 30th for engineering studies and before burning up harmlessly over the Pacific Ocean. The spacecraft will also send out some nanosatellites. After Cygnus departs the International Space Station, a series of NanoRacks customer CubeSats will be deployed into orbit, something that they're very anxious to do because it's a revenue stream for Nanosat. 9 United Arab Emirates astronaut hopefuls are going to Russia. They're going to be examined, prodded, and trained in Russia. They'll have to become proficient in Russian, as well as technical skills that are necessary to fly on a Russian Soyuz spacecraft. The intent is to fly one United Arab Emirates astronaut in April of 2019 to the International Space Station. But the starting of this phase of training indicates that everybody is serious about flying this astronaut to the International Space Station, and the 9 would-be travelers will be in for some very, very heavy training. NASA now has a new nominee for the agency's deputy administrator. No, it's not Janet Kavandi, who Jim Bridenstine wanted. Instead, the president has nominated James Morhart to serve as the agency's deputy director. Morhart served in the Congress, where he was sergeant at arms. Prior to that, he was deputy sergeant at arms. Prior to that, he was the staff director of the Senate Appropriations Committee. During his tenure in the committee, he ran the Senate Commerce and Justice committees, but he has not and does not possess any technical skills, which is what the administrator wanted for his deputy. But the president saw fit to appoint another political appointee to be NASA's associate administrator. NASA is also hoping to get an Emmy Award. Yep, that's right. NASA's Cassini coverage has landed an Emmy nomination for the agency. The Academy of Television Arts and Sciences nominated NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, for outstanding original interactive programming for its coverage of the Cassini mission's final grand finale at Saturn, including its news, web, education, television, and social media efforts. This is another indication that NASA does spectacular things not only in space, but to give us information and make it entertaining back here on Earth. Launch Complex 17 at the Kennedy Space Center, or more appropriately, Cape Canaveral, is no more. Yesterday, Launch Complex 17, consisting of 2 launch pads and towers, was imploded, and they will be leveled in the very near future. The reason for that is Moon Express will be building their own launch pad in that area, and there's no longer a need for the pad to be there. This was a launch pad that was devoted to the Delta II rocket, which launched from that location before it retired. Delta II flew its last flight on September 10th, 2011, with a pair of science probes to study the moon's gravitational field. And there's only one more Delta II launch scheduled, and that one will fly in September from Vandenberg Air Force Base. Blue Origin has stated that when they start flying their New Glenn spacecraft in late 2020, that it will start flying with 2 payloads. They say that it's the first time that the United States has a vehicle designed for dual-launched satellites. The Ariane space vehicle has been launching dual satellites from the get-go. And Jeff Bezos is saying, yes, that's exactly what we want to do with our vehicle when we start to fly. The first stage is designed to be fully recovered and reusable. Does that sound familiar? Ask SpaceX. They'll tell you. In fact, when we talk about SpaceX, the first Dragon spacecraft that will fly to the International Space Station is now at Cape Canaveral. The vehicle has been tested, and now it will undergo final preparations for potentially an August mission to the International Space Station. It will be an unmanned flight as a demonstration of SpaceX Crewed Dragon. They are anxious to show that they have the capabilities of launching men and women from to the International Space Station from Florida. And an interesting note, when that first spacecraft does arrive, there's a flag on the International Space Station that will be brought back. It was left there by the last crew that flew from Earth to the International Space Station. And it's a prize that both Boeing and SpaceX would like to have. Boeing is spending a lot of time testing their spacecraft as well. The Starliner spacecraft module was tested in a simulated landing, which they have been doing quite extensively if it lands on land. And that's the intent for the Starliner. So they've been practicing landing a Starliner. It's anticipated that within the next few months, NASA will announce which astronauts will fly on the Dragon and the Starliner. There are 4 that are in training right now. Lastly, we want to tell you that the Orion spacecraft's jettison motor is ready to start testing the escape system that will be used for the Orion spacecraft. It's a large solid rocket motor that will be in the tip of the spacecraft at the top to pull it away should there be any problems that occur. On Monday, we're going to tell you about Rocket Labs looking at 4 final locations to potentially have a new rocket launched to space. So until Monday, have a great day, everybody.
Randy Siegel with the Space Report here on WSTU, and portions of Mike and Bonnie in the morning are brought to us by Ellie's Downtown Deli and Catering.
And if you want a really tasty way to wind down your work week, eat something that you're going to crave, something that you're going to be craving after you try it. It's the Jumbo Wrap. It's a Mediterranean veggie wrap with all of the ingredients you're going to love, including the mixed greens and tomatoes and hummus, portobellas, fresh mozzarella, and roasted red peppers, olives, spinach, and pesto, all in a tasty wrap. Chef Mark will prepare it for you. You get it delivered to your workplace, and you can come in too and enjoy one of Mark's homemade desserts today, like some Oreo pie, or maybe make it delicious chocolate homemade brownies. Get it ordered to work or pick it up on the way home for your family tonight at Ellie's Deli in Stewart.
Yeah, and Ellie's Deli has partnered up with the Harborage Yacht Club and Marina, and they're going to be offering some nice, very fancy and elegant dinners over there at the Harborage Yacht Club and Marina. And the first one that they're doing is going to be not tonight, but next Friday, July the 20th. Doors open at 6 p.m. there. This is not like their previous dinners where it's a full 5-course meal where there's a set menu. This is going to be a limited menu, but you can pick and choose what you want on it. There's several appetizers to choose from, including their buffalo spiced fried calamari. They've got soups, they've got salads, their entrees like Ian's veal rollatini or the Asian short rib. They've got some great stuff on the menu, and you can see what the entire menu is by heading over to their Facebook page, facebook.com/Ellie's Downtown Deli. Now, you do need to make reservations for this dinner on Friday, July 20th, and they're going to do it again the week after on July 27th. So to make reservations for either day, give them a call at 772-781-6605, or better yet, swing on down to Ellie's Downtown Deli and Catering. They're located at 18 Southeast 6th Street, just off Colorado Avenue in Stewart. You can ask them any question you want about the dinner. Go ahead and make your reservations there and order lunch while you're at it. No matter how you get a hold of them, just make sure you tell them you heard about it from Mike and Bonnie in the morning.
President Trump arrived in England today, and he was greeted by hundreds of angry protesters. It didn't help that Trump arrived in England wearing a Croatian soccer jersey.
Stormy Daniels had a brush with the law last night. She was arrested at a strip club in Columbus because she allegedly touched a customer who turned out to be an undercover police officer. Under Ohio state law, an employee who appears nude or semi-nude is prohibited from touching patrons on the premises of a sexually oriented business unless it's a family member. That's the law. And just like that, the state of Ohio shoots past Florida in the race for creepiest state. Twitter today deleted millions of phony accounts, bots and whatnot. As a result of that, Justin Bieber lost about 2 million followers today. He did. President Obama lost 2.3 million. Even I was a victim. I lost 200,000 followers today, including my dad, who turned out he was a Russian bot the whole time.
The battle raged on as Goodlatte refused to let Strzok confer with the FBI counsel.
Counsel for the FBI is sitting here behind me. May I consult with them? You may consult with your own counsel. But I may not consult with the FBI's counsel? Only with your own counsel.
The witness can't be directed not to confer with his attorney.
Congressman Andy Cohen is right. This is the first time I've seen Congress as frustrated with Congress as we are.
Yeah, 8:48 here on this Friday, the 13th, 2018. So if you're feeling a little bit unlucky, well, maybe you could turn today into one of your lucky days. I know a lot of people. I think I know more people that say, Friday the 13th, that's my lucky day, than I know people that are scared of Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just kind of turn it around in a day of optimism, not pessimism.
Yeah. Well, got a lot of stuff that we're looking at here this morning. Here's a story out of California where this is a whole new level of dumb and desperate. 41-year-old David Brin was responsible for 2 hit-and-run crashes in Santa Ana on Wednesday. 4 people were left seriously injured. He crashed into one car. Then he started chasing someone who witnessed the crash and caused an even worse crash that involved 2 other guys and a guy on a bike. Now, nobody was killed, but they were hurt. After the second crash, David ran into a nearby ice cream distributor, grabbed a random employee, and forced him outside as the cops were arriving and tried to say that, I got him. I got the guy who caused the accident.
Imagine that. Oh, I would, if I were on that street corner, I would go and just kind of like, I would want to kick him where it counts.
Yeah. Well, he went up to the police and literally said, here, I caught the driver of that car for you. There were multiple witnesses and they said, yeah, no.
Who was the poor guy that, or lady that he grabbed out of that store?
Ignacio Morales, you know?
Julio Iglesias?
Julio Iglesias, yes. Turns out David was on drugs, so they booked him for driving under the influence, resisting arrest, and felony hit and run. Now he'll also be facing kidnapping charges for yanking Ignacio outside so that he could blame him for it.
Yeah, he's going to be, he'll be doing some time, that's for sure. He's going to get his just desserts.
That is correct, and it's not going to be ice cream. The cops were called out to Bill Cosby's birthday party. He can't catch a break. He was in his Philadelphia home yesterday having a party to celebrate his 81st birthday.
Wow.
And apparently they had a 5-piece jazz band and someone called in a noise complaint. And Cosby's rep says police never entered the property and they didn't make the band stop playing. So they just had a pop up and say, you're playing your music too loud.
That must have been quite an 81st birthday party to have a 5-piece jazz band playing there. I would like to have that when I turn 81. That's the kind of party I would want to have.
I imagine your birthday parties get a little bit more extravagant as you get older and you realize you're probably not going to have too many more birthdays left. And when you might be in jail for your next birthday, like Bill Cosby might be.
Mm-hmm. Then you will have to make your birthday party as fun as you can and pleasant.
Stormy Daniels was arrested Wednesday night. She was doing her shows, her toured across America, Make America Horny Again show at a strip club. She was in Columbus, Ohio, and there were 4 undercover cops, 2 men and 2 women. that came to her show at the Sirens Gentlemen's Club. They were there supposedly to investigate complaints about prostitution and drug activity at the club. And according to their report, Stormy was, took off her top, obviously, and began forcing the faces of the patrons into her chest and all kinds of other stuff like that, which is apparently against the law in Ohio. She apparently did this to the undercover cops, too. She was arrested after the show, and the charges were quickly dropped. Apparently, this is how weird the rules are in Ohio. Apparently, you have to be a regular performer at a club to be arrested for doing that. But if you're a special one-time performer like Stormy Daniels is, then you could do it legally.
Oh, so Stormy is just one drive-by show.
Yeah, she's just only one night only. Stormy Daniels.
So she can't get away with it, but the regular people that dance there could have gotten away with that one.
Opposite. She gets away with it.
Okay.
They can't.
Okay, I see.
That's why the charges were dropped. It seemed like a weird rule. When I was reading up on it yesterday, I'm like, this isn't, I mean, I know every state and every region has its own rules on strip clubs, but it seems like exactly what you would expect to happen when you go to a strip club and there's a famous person there that's doing a special show.
I wonder how old is Stormy Daniels by now? Hasn't she been around for centuries?
Not centuries.
I mean, she just seems like she'd be, I don't know, getting a little bit up there to still be a dancer.
She's 39.
Okay.
39 years old.
Maybe she should look into something else, because, you can't be dancing and bringing back the America Horny show again forever.
Well, she's making her money now. She's doing a good job with it currently.
She's getting it while she can.
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg, according to the New York Post, he tried to play both sides of the Super Bowl because he's a big-time Patriots fan, but he's also had a soft spot for the Eagles after starring in the 2006 movie Invincible, where he played 70s Philly special teams player Vince Papale. I don't know if I pronounced his name right. When he heard that it was the Pats and Eagles in the Super Bowl earlier this year, he called it a win-win. And apparently he tried to make that the case as well, because he was spotted at an Atlantic City casino dropping big money on the Pats to win next year's Super Bowl. And I guess this year he also put in a few bucks on the Philadelphia Eagles. So he's put money on both the Pats and the Eagles to win next year's Super Bowl. I misunderstood that. I thought he was talking about last Super Bowl.
So it's like going to be a win-win situation for him.
Yeah, if he can get another rematch into the Pats and Eagles, he's going to win money, because he went in and bet on both of them to win the Super Bowl this year.
It would be exciting if he's right. It would definitely be for another exciting Super Bowl. That's for sure.
I wonder if there's a way, if there's math out there where you could bet on almost every team in the league to win the Super Bowl and come out and either break even or win money in certain situations. I don't know if you can.
I wonder if it sounds like you would be like more breaking even than winning or losing anything with that.
You're probably spreading so much money out in so many different bets that you'd have to, it'd be not worth it.
Yeah. G was talking about the prop bets. I think you can make some certain prop bets on the up and coming thing with Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
If that's going to be a go. And it sounds like that would be getting underway maybe September or November, I'm thinking.
Okay.
And it would be just like really, really exciting. But I guess there's a place online where you can go and make the prop bets on that already.
You can do prop bets on anything. Do you remember any of the prop bets?
Let me see. It was
anything?
Something about who was going to make the first sneaky play or something like that.
Sneaky play?
Like
what's a sneaky?
Maybe something that's not legal. And then, then people would say, "Oh, that must be Phil Mickelson."
Yeah, that would definitely
we don't
be
know,
Phil.
Things like that.
That would definitely be Phil. 8:55 is the time this morning. We've got Treasure Coast News coming up next. Taking a look at our Treasure Coast news, a grand jury's decided to not indict a Martin County deputy following a fatal Indiantown shooting. WPTV's Amy Littman has the details.
At least 12 of the 19 grand jury members decided not to indict Martin County Sheriff's Office Deputy John Welliver in the death of 46-year-old Jerry Richardson. The grand jury released its decision just around 3 o'clock this afternoon. They did not find probable cause to charge Welliver in Richardson's death. The Martin County Sheriff's Office says Welliver shot Richardson 5 times after some kind of confrontation. Richardson had a machete on him at the time, but his family says he carried that machete with him everywhere because he did landscaping. Richardson's family members were emotional following the decision, but they say this is not the end.
It doesn't take 6 shots, 5 of which hitting my brother in the chest and killing him, and yet and still be justified by saying it had every right to do so. That's not right.
Richardson's family does plan to take some sort of next step in the legal process. They are consulting with a lawyer on that. Amy Littman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
The St. Lucie County Fire District said that a Thursday afternoon house fire in Port St. Lucie appears to have been started after lightning struck the roof. Crews said the fire quickly spread throughout the home on Hamberlin Avenue. The Red Cross was called to assist 3 adults, a child, and a dog, but no injuries were reported. The Jensen Beach Causeway is closing tonight at 5 p.m. for Martin Health Foundation's 17th annual Goombay Bash. The closure includes Jensen Beach Causeway Park, the boat ramps, and the pavilions. Saturday's Goombay Bash event raises funds for maternal, child, and pediatric services at Martin Health. Alternative boat ramps will be available at the Stewart Causeway and the Jensen Beach boat ramp next to the U.S. Sailing Center of Martin County at Indian Riverside Park. There will not be any expected changes to the regular traffic patterns, and the causeway reopens Saturday at midnight. Let's get a quick look at traffic with Bonnie.
Well, there's a hit-and-run crash in Port St. Lucie right now. It's right on the Turnpike. It's at the entrance ramp, mile marker 142, and this is Turnpike northbound, and there's not any roadblock there at the moment. There's your latest look at traffic.
All right, thanks, Bonnie. We've got a big weekend coming up here. It is, of course, the chili cook-off in St. Lucie County. So we're going to be out there on Saturday all day for the big event up there. Bonnie's making the chili. Are you all prepared and ready to go?
Well, I have to go get some meat right after this.
There you go. All right, we'll go buy that meat. Okay. And good luck with the chili tomorrow. I know you're probably going to be out there in the morning, and most of the day I'm getting out there in the afternoon. We got some fun stuff out there. It's at the Fenn Center in Fort Pierce. WSTU Stewart. See you Monday morning at 6 o'clock.